All right, so to get a topographic profile, just simply click on one spot. Okay, and so that's where one of them I want to go, and I want to go straight line directly south. Let's go to India. So I'm going to go essentially look at Western China. And so what this now does is it shows me the topographic profile. And so if we follow along the paw print up here, the paw print is as I move along this topographic profile along the green at the bottom, essentially the cross-section view, as I go across, you can see how it corresponds to actually the location of it along that pink line. So we can now talk about the physical geography of China in doing this. All right, so first off, let's start off, we're in Mongolia. So as we come across Mongolia, Mongolia is a little bit more of a lowland compared to the rest of this topographic profile. And so as we go through, we can see right there is the country line or the separation between Mongolia and China. So it makes sense that these countries both have kind of decided, okay, well, we're going to put our boundary right here, and then we can defend try to defend themselves, because it's much easier to defend by shooting down at your enemy than shooting up at them. And same for Mongolia. So Mongolia doesn't have much going on there. And so for the most part, as we continue on, we're in relatively low-lying areas, kind of flat. We get through this area. This is kind of sort of the Gobi Desert area. I'll talk more about that when I talk about climate. But then we get to the Taklamakan Desert. Talk more about that a little bit later. And now we get to the quintessential example of a plateau. And so we think of a plateau as steep slopes on both sides. And so right here, this is a great example of a plateau. What is that plateau? It's the Tibetan Plateau. Tibetan. And so here we have a plateau, very high upland area. We're talking super duper high, Colorado kind of high, in which you have these high elevations in which relatively sparse, but also some very much some folk cultures reside, and that makes sense. In more remote areas, we're going to find that. Then we continue, of course, we have here, as we continue on, the Himalayan Mountains, and then the steep downslope towards the, of course, what we've talked about in South Asia and India. And so I'm going to go do a reset and now look at China from west to east. And to do so, I'm gonna just zoom in just a little bit more here. Maybe zoom out just a little bit. So let's go to just south of the name Kyrgyzstan. So I'm going to go from west to east. And so we're going to go over here into the East China Sea. And so these are some landforms also to talk about. If your country is along an ocean or along a sea, talk about that. You're going to be able to see them. Trust me, they're going to be below sea level. Go figure on your topographic profile found down below. So first off here, we can see we got a rugged feature. And so once again, China has these mountains kind of protecting it. And so on all sides, really. And so China's very fortified. It's got the Himalayan Mountains. It's got these mountains here. These mountains here are called the Tian Shan, Tian space Shan mountains. And so very much protects China. And so it's something that they've done strategically and it's helped to maintain Chinese culture for a long, long time. Then we have that Taklamakan Desert right through here. Now we really go over that area. We can really see that here, that big desert area, very, very, very flat. I mean, that's a very flat surface there. So it's not a floodplain. It's not a lush plain. It's not what we're going to see here on the other side of these mountains here in a minute. Now we have the Tibetan Plateau, kind of more of it. Keep in mind the Himalayan Mountains are continuing to get taller as that Indo-Australian plate comes plowing into the Eurasian landmass, forcing up the Tibetan Plateau. And so that's what this rugged feature is here. And so naturally what we have is going from the top of the mountains going down, we have the rivers, the origins of the rivers. And so the rivers all flow towards the sea. And so what we also got going on here is orographic precipitation. And so in the case of this Taklamakan Desert, why this is one of the driest, most miserable places in the world is it's kind of got the rain shadow 2 times. So it's got the rain shadow over here. So we've got the orographic precipitation, which the rain essentially dumps all over it over here, then of course flows back down as rivers, and then continues on, and it continues on quite dry. Then coming the other direction, same idea. A little bit of precipitation on this side. Now we got a rain shadow, and so the Taklamakan Desert, miserable. Super, super dry because it's got the rain shadow in 2 regards. Now continuing on, as we get closer now into eastern China. Eastern China, much different than western China. Western China, we can already see its colors in the map on the top. It's it's dry, it's brown. Whereas in eastern China, it's much more lush. Once again, orographic precipitation helps to explain that. So we have the water essentially as a source for a lot of this precipitation that comes onto the Chinese mainland, and then with these elevations up here, eventually gets dumped as rain and then flows back down as rivers. So the Chinese rivers, which is something I'm going to talk about later in this particular section, come flowing, and then of course we see a very large flat area here, very close to the sea. This very large flat area is what they call the North China Plain. This is going to be the population core of China. This is also going to see lots of agriculture. Once again, agriculture, it likes a good amount of moisture, but it likes flat surfaces. You go a little bit farther up here in the more rugged areas. As you go farther inland, you get more, in the highland areas, you get more pastoral, more grazing in terms of the, I guess, the agricultural type, where here it's more farming. And get out here, there's nothing. It's nothing out here. So more of the pastoral and grazing, kind of in the central part of China, where you go into the west, there's just nothing out there. But like I said, tons of ag, tons of, when we think about it, we got 1 billion people in China, got to feed them. A lot of that comes from the North China Plain. Eventually here we get down to the coast, and we see now we're a little bit, as we go right to the bottom of the topographic profile, we now get underwater, and so we have a very, what we call a continental shelf, and so it's really not that deep. And we're going to see when we get to Japan, we look at its topographic profile, it's very, very, very deep.